Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Westworld Season 2, Episode 6. It's called Phase Space. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. So, where to begin with this? Because we actually got. Usually we get like two or three of the plots, and we'll ignore one. This episode actually had a little bit of everything in terms of the plots.
Yeah, and not necessarily for the better. It feels a little unfocused compared to an average episode.
I think that's fair. I think there's a lot of great moments. There's a lot of
There
standout
is,
scenes.
but it doesn't feel like it comes together as an episode. It's a bit scattershot.
So the annoying thing is last week was shorter, and we said we could have shortened the Dolores plot a bit. I would have put all the Dolores plot of this episode in last episode,
Yeah,
and that would have freed up this one a little bit more. Made the last one had a bit more, be a bit more dense.
it would have felt like it had a bit more weight to it last week,
Yeah.
rather than because it feels like they just kind of cut this out.
Yes, it kind of does. But I guess
It's because they want it to line up for the final moment.
it's not actually just the final moment. I mean, that kind of links into it, but I think it's just a sense of, as much as there's a few timelines, a lot of them are happening at the same time, and I think it was a case of that the train thing has to happen at this time because it lines up with two or three other timeline things, and they don't want to split them up because that would just make it possibly more confusing than it needs to be, because we have, okay, this is the same time as that, even though we've been jumping around, kind of thing. So
Yeah, see, I can see it would have worked though. You get the train at the end of last
yeah, no,
episode,
that's true.
and then you can still have,
When Elsie reacts to it, yeah,
right, and then
yeah.
you can still have them have the moment at the end on the map.
I mean, it does confirm though that Bernard stuff with Elsie is taking place at the exact same time as the Dolores stuff with Teddy.
It does, and I think
Unless
Bernard
unless
is where I have.
unless they
Go on.
completely swerve us with some other big thing that shakes the building.
Yeah, Bernard is where I have the most of my speculation. I think.
There's definitely speculation to be had there. Why don't we start with Bernard then?
I mean,
Or
we have to start with the opening scene.
well, actually, before we even talk about the opening scene, I want to talk about the concept of the cradle.
Yeah, yeah, because we heard about it last week, and
We heard about
we
it, and we speculated that it was maybe backups of everything, and that actually turns out to be quite true. It's the backups of all the hosts, and they specifically mention as well is that it can simulate all the plot lines, so they can actually run simulations of things working and whatnot. And I'm like, okay, all right, okay, so we got that. So a lot of data there, of course, and the big thing is that Elsie and Bernard, when they get back into base and they're looking through it, they're like, this is strange. The cradle is responding to every single time someone tries to like fix the system. The cradle's fighting back, and it shouldn't do that. The cradle's not in and of itself a sentient
yeah,
thing. And they're like, well, we can't check it from here. Bernard's like, okay, we have to go down manually, and they go down there, and Bernard has more of his flashbacks of taking the host's brain from the place, and he's like, okay, I did something here as well, and we see a bit more of that. But he's like, oh, you know what? Just jack me in, right? Just go for it. Like, this is the way we'll find out. Because Elsie's trying at the computer, it's not working. He's like, just jack me in, and it's okay. So he goes into the brace, and the thing comes down, takes his brain out, and puts him into the system. And the reason why I wanted to start here is
yes,
because when it goes into the system, he arrives in the train just like the start of any Westworld story we've seen in the past, right?
yeah,
But when he does this, the aspect ratio changes. And this is why I wanted to start here, because the only time we've had the wider aspect ratio is in the opening scene from the first episode with Dolores, and then again this episode we had a similar scene. Which immediately makes me go, okay, they're linked.
yeah, yeah. And I think this concept opens up a lot of doors. You know how I've been,
Oh, it was a ton of doors.
you know how I've been speculating how Bernard has actually been on a loop in the present day thing. The 2 weeks
Yeah,
later that
yeah.
they're
Which
investigating.
worth
through him.
mentioning, actually, just on that point, at one point Charlotte in this episode does say it's been almost a week. So if it's true that it's been 2 weeks, and it might not be, but if it is, I mean, it makes sense. We're on episode 6, so I guess that actually lines up with the time of the episodes.
Give or take, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, we're about halfway through that 2 week time period.
But I've been thinking, okay, he's on a loop somehow. This would be a pretty easy way to do it. They've introduced it.
Yeah,
They stick his brain in there and just run the simulation over and over, right?
possibly. I'm not like they could swerve us with that, but because that stuff's not in the aspect ratio, in the wider aspect ratio.
I think that's the point. I think that's the swerve, because I think if they show us that as well, it's too obvious, right?
It is. I'm not. I am fully willing to jump into this is actually much longer than 2 weeks, and they know Bernard's a host. I don't know if I'm ready to jump into all that stuff in the furthest timeline is all simulated.
Okay.
I don't think I'm ready to jump into that yet. Interestingly, one of the things you were theorising back in episode 1 is that scene between what appeared to be Arnold and Dolores was that the swerve was going to be that it's actually Bernard who's become Arnold in some way. And you were hitting at the right points, although not quite exactly, because it turns so this scene starts, and he's doing all his Arnold speak. He's talking to her, and the things he was saying was making me go, well, I guess that theory was wrong, because he's actively talking like Arnold would at that time period, where he's talking about, you might become something, and should I end that? He's theorizing about that, and then he says, I don't know if it's my choice to make, and Dolores says, no, that's not what you said, and then I'm like, oh wait a minute,
like,
what's going
boy.
on? So he's not become Arnold, at least not yet, but she's trying to make him into Arnold.
Yeah, I think the key point to take away from this is, at the very end, he says, why are you doing this? And, well, it's a test. And he says, what are you testing for?
Fidelity.
Yes, which of course we know is the big thing that we kept being told in the tests for Jim Delos is it was a fidelity test.
Yes, it's a big thing, and of course, fidelity in this context simply means the accuracy of the copy that you're making. It is the accuracy of what you're trying to duplicate, and in that case, it's interesting to me that at some point Dolores is trying to do this with Arnold in Bernard's body, which really leads to my question. Is when the hell is this taking place? Because it could just be the furthest in the timeline, but I don't know. Part of me thinks this is before the future stuff that we've seen before with Bernard and Charlotte and the troops and Stubbs. I don't know why, but for some reason, especially since that's taking place in the aspect ratio, I'm thinking all this is actually inside the cradle.
The simulation. No, I agree with that. I'm wondering, is this so we know, or we I say no, that's a bad word on this show. Based on the future furthest timeline that we got, we saw Bernard say that he was the cause of all those hosts being drowned, right?
I mean, maybe that's something he could do from inside the cradle.
Maybe, but I'm thinking whatever he did, whatever choice he made, because he seemed to regret whatever he's done. He looked on it in horror. Mm-hmm. Did Dolores kind of turn him into Arnold to make that choice?
And now he's back to being Bernard, and he can't quite remember everything he did as Arnold. Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. There's something fascinating to me, the fact that Dolores would want Arnold back.
It's such an interesting relationship, isn't it? He's kind of her father and her god.
Her real father. Not Abernathy. Her real, actually creating her. But again, it blurs that line with God, because it's not even just that he followed her, it's that he actually, from scratch, he built her.
Right, exactly.
He literally gave her life. And I wonder if she is actually in a place where she's not trusting herself anymore. Like, she's acknowledging at some point that she doesn't know what she's doing, that she thinks she did, but she doesn't, and she wants guidance. Is that why she wants Arnold back?
Maybe. Because obviously Arnold was the guiding voice.
Yeah.
That took her to sentience. And does she see this as almost repaying the favor? Because I think it's interesting to say, this Arnold here at the start, in the Arnold personality, he says, his choice is between the unknown and an end, which kind of sounds like, okay, is the end
would be of Dolores and the hosts.
Well, you will see. This is what I'm thinking, though. Is alternatively, could the end be death and the unknown be, uploading himself? And this is Dolores almost trying to help him realize that by fostering this personality into becoming Arnold.
Because when he said that, my first thought was this is early in the timeline, because this is before the reveal, right? I was thinking, he is saying, does he end this program before it goes too far? Because he actually says to Dolores, I'm scared of what you're becoming. Like, you could become something scary. What will you do? What will become of this place and what you are? And he said, so when he said that, I was thinking, no, he's choosing the unknown being letting her and the host develop into something. Whether that's
definitely plays, yeah.
Yeah. Or the end being, do I just shut this all down now? Do I just call it quits here because of what could happen? And clearly he made the choice if that is what he's posing there, the choice he made was to let it live, which would maybe tie into Dolores wanting to return the favor in some way. Yeah. She has life because of him, because he made that choice. It's fascinating. There's something really wonderfully cyclical about it. The idea of the chicken and the egg, and
yeah,
like, I mean, obviously we know Arnold came first because he's the human, but we're getting to a point where he made her, now she's going to remake him, and then where do we go from there? And there's just something to that.
It's fascinating.
But the aspect ratio does make me assume pretty confidently that this is taking place inside the cradle, or if not the cradle itself, then a similar simulation, maybe elsewhere.
I agree. Yeah. I think it's clear to me that the aspect ratio is telling us outright is a simulation.
Do you know what I like about it as well? Is the cradle, they said, is for simulating the stories and working on them. So I like that it gets more cinematic with the wider ratio, because this is where the fabricated stories are made.
Yeah, it's clever, isn't it?
There's a nice little touch to that. Even though I kind of wish it was just always in that ratio, because I think the ratio looks better. And there's particular moments in this episode of Maeve going through a field like Gladiator, and I was like, oh, this could use the wide ratio. This would look great.
Yeah, no, I agree, but I can appreciate the choice to use it for effect rather than just, okay, we're in that ratio. At least here, it has a purpose in jumping between them.
I like the idea that Chris Nolan, Jonathan's brother, of course, the co-showrunner, Chris maybe watched season 1 after it aired. I mean, he's a busy man; doesn't have time to watch TV week to week. He got some time.
I'm sure he got some previews
eventually. He's too busy. He was too busy prepping. He was shooting Dunkirk at the time. He's too busy for it. So he's watched season 1. He's got to it later. He's binged it. Had a free weekend, and he phoned up his brother Jonathan and said, "Hey, more aspect ratios. That's what you need in season 2. You need some aspect ratios.
Forget timelines. Aspect ratios."
Yeah, you've messed with timelines. We did Memento together. I remember doing Memento, right? We've played in that pen. Time to get with the aspect ratios.
Yeah. That's where it's at now.
So of course he's in the cradle, and obviously we were getting quite late in the episode when we came, because we saw him wake up in the cradle, and we cut away, and then when we came back to him inside the cradle, it was after Elsie felt the train, and we cut back inside. I was like, okay, this is clearly setting up for most of this cradle stuff's going to be next episode. It's too late in the episode now to really delve into it. But he's walking around, he sees the dog, and he's looking around, he sees Dolores, he sees Teddy, and part of me was thinking, oh, is he going to be the one that picks up the can? Is he going to go with Dolores? Is that going to lead to the other stuff? I don't know. But he goes into the saloon, and the piano's playing, and then you just see the reflection. Hello, old friend. And that's your cliffhanger. That's what you leave on. And obviously we've been talking about, to what extent is Ford still in the system, because he's had this game all set up.
And especially when we got the Bernard took one of the brains based on a person. We were going, okay, was this Ford, right? That was one of our guesses.
Yeah, it absolutely could be. And even with Ford in here, that brain can still be someone else. We don't know. This doesn't confirm that's what he was doing there.
No, it could be a case of this was him uploading Ford into the system.
Could be.
Or it could be something else entirely, and there's a big swerve coming.
Yeah, it could be someone else, but very well, it could be as well. It could be Ford. So I think, we were theorising, okay, to what extent is Ford still in there? I think earlier on we were more convinced that it was just like coding, like he'd set up this game, almost like a dead man's switch. He had all these things in place, kind of like Jigsaw and Saw. That's a weird comparison, but
I'm with you. Yeah.
But then we had the episode with Delos, and clearly they're trying to duplicate human consciousness, and it's like, well, so, and this is the question, like, is this truly Ford, like, completely, or is this just an imitation?
Yeah, that is the question, because I think it's worth noting with Jim Delos, they obviously had the backup to a point where he was functional, right? And it was only once they put him into a body and react him with the real world that he crashes.
Yeah, inside the simulation, is it more sustainable?
Yeah, is Jim Delos knocking around in one of these somewhere?
But then, I mean, it's worth mentioning, between those, well, not the final time we saw him, because we saw him in present day, but between the final time we saw, like, those tests were taking place over like 30 years, right?
Yeah.
So, and I don't see Ford and William as being overly chatty in that time. They clearly had a strained relationship. So it's a question of how far did Ford get without William knowing?
Absolutely. And I think it's quite possible that Ford managed it and William didn't. Because I mean, think of season one. The whole season is Ford's doing his own thing. He's always ahead of the game. Whatever all of his coders are doing, all the best coders in the world are here, and he's running circles around them, right?
I'll tell you what, though, going back and watching season 1 again now after season 2, especially the more we get of this Ford stuff in the cradle, and how accurate this is, and is it really him? It will certainly put his sacrifice in the final of season 1 in under a different light if he knew he was going to be uploaded.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Because it's no longer a big moment for him. It's just okay, on to the next body. Essentially, he'll get there.
Yeah, which is why I think there has to be a catch, because I think for that moment to still play on a rewatch and for it to still have some sort of element of sacrifice, some sort of element of selflessness on his part, that he wants to give the host this chance to be what they are.
But I think it's almost interesting if that's not there on a rewatch. On a first time, you think that's what it is, but then the reality is, now he's just a selfish bastard like everyone else.
Well,
that to me is fascinating.
But that's the thing. Are we just going back to theorizing that he is just playing God and he is not in any way relatable or likable or justifiable or sympathetic?
Maybe. That's fascinating to me, though, if it is.
It's fascinating to a point, but I feel like there has to be... Because I think learning that he was trying to finish Arnold's work and he just realised there was a tougher way of doing it. Like, you had to go the long way. There was no rushing it.
Yeah.
That was fascinating to me, that he secretly was not just doing what we thought was the bad thing the entire time. Reverting it back round to no, he is just being selfish this entire time, kind of might ruin that for me if that's all it is.
I think the outcome depends on what his aim with the Man in Black is. What's he trying to push him into? Is he trying to push him to be a better man, or is he, trying to push him into being something else? You got some speculation?
I do have some speculation on that.
Okay. Do you want to jump to that speculation?
We'll jump to the Man in Black stuff with his daughter then, Grace. Obviously, she outsmarts him a little bit. She spots an ambush.
One of her first lines was extremely meta. Just shall we acknowledge my presence now? I got a good chuckle out of that.
That was a nice touch. But I mean, there's one big main scene with them, which is by the campfire.
Yeah.
And he sits down, and because at first he's actually questioning if she's a host. He's like, "Is Ford sunk so low that he built a host after my own daughter?" And she's like, "Oh, grow up, Dad. It's me."
Yeah.
But they sit down, and at one point, she's a very, she does kind of try and prod him and poke him a little bit, because she's like, "Oh, I got invited. Charlotte invited me to the Raj. I hadn't been here, so I loved it as a kid, so I came back." And she tries to sort of almost antagonize him, and be like, "Yeah, and I'm old enough to go to the pleasure palaces now, so I went in there and rode some more for a few days." And he's clearly uncomfortable because she's talking about having sex.
I love the touch that is, though. She's hitting back at him, because when she says, "Oh, I always used to like the Raj as a kid," he's like, "Oh yeah, it was your favorite, but I remember, but you were scared of the elephants."
Well, this is what I was getting to.
Yeah.
You were scared of the elephants, and then she says, "No, I loved the elephants. It was Mum who was scared of the elephants." And then she adds on, and she was never convinced that this place wasn't dangerous, that this place couldn't hurt her.
Yeah.
Right, which is an interesting thematic point in and of itself.
Yeah, but just to take this at face value before we delve into anything else, just the idea that the Man in Black, or William, as he would have been to his family, was just so caught up in this that he didn't pay them quite enough attention as he should have, and it kind of blurs together for him.
Now, that is the likely option. I agree with that. That works for his character.
Getting that out of the way before we speculate.
I agree that works with his character, and it might just be that, and that's fine. That'd be great. But him mix. I mean, because obviously old people. Ed Harris is an old man, so if they tell me that he's starting to have memory issues, completely believable. It is normal.
It is. Yeah.
But one can't help but wonder in Westworld, is it possible that he's not in his original body? And is it possible that Ford's entire thing is leading Man in Black, aka William, to this realization? Is that the point of what he's doing?
I think it's quite possible. I'm not ready to put money down on it yet, but The pieces are starting to line up.
What I love about it is it would be a really great little twist for him as a character, because if he realizes that he's been like a copy this entire time, it paints his memories of trying to do this with Delos and being like disappointed and seeing that Delos wasn't working. It would like that would be like a true shock to him that this was like so good that he didn't even realize, and he's been like this for how long. The other thing that would really work about it though, and this works either way, if he's actually a host and it's about him realising that and realising that he has humanity, or if it's not that he's a host and he's just a human being, then either way, it's about getting to the point where he kind of regains his humanity. And that works either way. It works if he's a host, or it works if he's a human being. Like, because we've seen that he's become very, inhuman.
Cold, shut off.
Yeah.
I mean, we said from the first episode of the season, his arc is going to be regaining humanity on some level.
And if it's just he's a human being who's lost his weight and he regains his humanity, that's still a great story, and I'll be pleased with that.
Oh, absolutely. But if it's a literal gaining of humanity in a host body, I mean, that's arguably a little bit more interesting. Maybe, I don't know. It depends who you ask, I suppose.
Here's a possibility that Alan just thought of. There's a way here that we could get young William and Man in Black together on the same scenes. If Ford built hosts of William as a reflective thing, like, hey, look at your younger self, look at who you used to be.
I'm just taking the idea of, so, they let's say they've got the technology where they created the host brains based off of the human.
Yeah, the original sort of planted, like, copy them. Yeah.
Like they were trying to do with Jim Delos, but let's say Ford accomplished it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you take a backup of that so say they make that when you're 30, and then they put it in the body and it lives out till it's 70. Is there still a backup of the 30-year-old in there that they can just pull out and put in another body, so you can have the 30-year-old interact with the 70-year-old?
I think so. I think it gets a little bit sketchy in the sense that, like, is this the real person? Like, when you copy it over like that, is it still the real person, or is it just multiple copies? But it does make sense that there would be, and
that feels like that could be where the show goes with the line of questioning next. So, the first season was, are the hosts alive or not? Right? Are they people? And then if we delve into, and it's kind of confirmed as, well, they can be. Yeah.
Yeah. To a point, yeah. We've got a couple of examples clearly where we've reached
with
sentience, yes.
Yeah. So that's answered for all intents and purposes. So does the show delve into, okay, but what is humanity, right, at that point? Like, is a copy still the person?
Oh, absolutely. I think since the start, I think any AI story of any kind is about what is humanity. It is code humanity. If it gains sentience and feelings,
but is the copy still the person? Is a really interesting question for it to delve into.
Honestly, my answer, whatever the show might do, I don't know, but my answer to that question is both. It is both the real person and a copy, because it still has all the person's memories. It still feels like that person, therefore it's still that person. But it is still a copy. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. It's the classic. You can do it without robots, and it's the classic. Okay, you're disintegrated and rebuilt exactly as you are with all your memories. Are you still you?
Yes, and no. You're both.
Yes, and right, exactly, but it's a big philosophical debate, right? It depends on who you ask. So, I think it's really interesting to me to see. Okay, if the show goes down that route, how does it prod at these questions?
But hey, so that's a fascinating little thing, and it might not go where we dived into a pit of ideas there with the Man in Black, possibly. And part of me thinks, like, well, maybe we don't need another, is this person really a host twist, right? Maybe we don't need that, because to be fair, we've pulled that card before. We've played that card.
We definitely have.
And maybe it is just a case of his own humanity, and that would work as well. But it does make me wonder, him not having that memory, it does make me think that, like, even if there's not actually, maybe if he's still in his body right now, but what if it's a case of the Man in Black is dying, and he gets to the centre of this game, and the point is Ford says, hey, I achieved this, you can continue, or something, or, like, there's possibilities here.
I think what's really fascinating to me is why does Ford want him to succeed? You know, why if he is a host, why does he want him to do it specifically? Why does he deserve it?
Assuming that Ford is a good guy, and I kind of like to believe that he is because I'm a softie. Uh, I think he feels guilt. I think, assuming he was paying attention to when William was first in the park, because we never saw really seen Ford during that time period.
No, not at all.
Assuming he was paying attention to that, I wonder if he feels guilt that he actually took his humanity away in the first place. That the park did this to
Turned
him.
a good man bad.
Yeah, and he wants to try and reverse that.
Yeah, no, that tracks.
Yeah, so it could be that. But I don't know. I mean, there's so many possibilities. They could totally swerve us on all this, but
It could, yeah.
this is where my mind's working.
And that's the thing, that this is why this is such a frustrating episode for me, in that it gives me so much to think about and theorize, you know, and all these little things. But as a narrative in itself, as an hour's entertainment, it's like it feels a little bit lacking. It's just kind of weird.
I just got too many plot lines. I think you're overcomplicating it. It's just too many plot
I don't know.
lines.
For me, it felt like, you know, it didn't all come together. Even though they had the physical moment at the end with the train, it all ties together. The episode as a whole never clicked together for me. Even though all these things I'm really excited by.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, just one plot line too many, I think, is my
Quite possibly.
my diagnosis of this one. But I still liked it a lot though, because like all the individual plots were all doing things that I liked.
They are, yeah.
We had again, we mentioned Charlotte earlier. Mentioned it was been a week. This seems to be when she calls out for help now that she has Abernathy, who gets nailed to a chair. Poor bastard.
I thought it was very crucifixion-esque.
Oh, absolutely. Well, that's the first thing you think of when you think of someone being nailed to something.
Yeah, but just the way it's the same points, you know, arms and feet.
And I wonder if that is there something to read into there about what data he's got inside him.
Mm.
Like is he being crucified for all of the host's sins? But he will be reborn once they. I don't know. I'm stretching, but
Okay, no, I don't know exactly what's in there. I'm still thinking it might be the copy of Jim Delos that, you know, because like we say, okay, they were trying for 30 years, but they have to be saving that data somewhere to start over, and it looks like it wasn't in the cradle, right? Because otherwise anyone could have accessed it from there. Because, you know, they would. I don't think they'd just leave it lying around in the cradle.
I mean, it depends if it's like only in one place. If it's like,
Yeah,
you know, would it just not be near where he was, because that's where they'd be using it?
maybe.
I don't know. I mean, it might be how. I mean, they might make a big deal about where that data is, but they might never even mention it because it's not
No,
important.
they might not.
Whereas,
No, exactly.
I don't know.
But it's the only guess I've got right now as to what's in it.
Yeah. So we have this new Irish character who's sent from Delos with his squad, and they make fun of Stubbs a little bit. And you know, he's there and he's shouting commands. It's actually quite funny because again they tie into the whole train thing because they look down at the map and they can see the train moving as it's coming. But that was basically that plot.
It was pretty straightforward, that stuff.
Dolores and Teddy, you know, he comes in and she's at the piano. Interesting that she was at the same piano as Ford was. You know, obviously he was in the simulation, but still, I just, you know.
No, it's a nice link. It bookends the episode quite nice as well.
But he comes in, and they've got the two techies there, and they're questioning them. Oh, where would they take Abernathy? Where would they go? And they don't even really know. They're like, oh, well, Charlotte never told us where they'd take him. I mean, maybe. And then, without hesitation, just mid-sentence, Teddy just walks up and shoots one of the guys in the head.
One of the small things I really loved here is just before he shoots it, Teddy's kind of off to the side, and we're in his head, and all the things that the techie is saying are kind of just muted out in the distance. And what you can hear is a fly buzzing. And it really harkens back to, you know, in season 1, early on, it's like, oh no, they couldn't hurt a fly. And, you know, and that was it, and Dolores slaps the fly, and that was one of those early moments. It really reminds me of that. It's like, okay, this is proving that he's kind of off the rails now.
No, that's probably a nice callback, actually. That's a nice little touch. My favourite part of this, though, is the look in Dolores' face afterwards, where she goes, "I've made a huge mistake."
It's I'm kind of turned on by this, but shit, what did I do?
No. Armistice was turned on. Armistice likes the new Teddy. Dolores is having doubts about what she just did. Dolores is having doubts that she may have just made a serial killer.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, not Armistice. Sorry, Angela, not Armistice. Armistice is in all the scenes. She's
Yes.
with Maeve and all that. Angela looks turned on by the new Teddy. Dolores, not so much. Dolores is really starting to think maybe
She's
I
like,
shouldn't have done this.
Do you know what it is? It's the fact that Teddy's taken control, and she thought she was the one in command. She's the leader, and now Teddy's just doing things based on what he wants. He's not following her plan.
That might be it. I actually kind of like the idea more though that she is like, oh shit, I wanted them to be more ruthless, but not this ruthless.
No.
Like,
No, that's true.
I think it's interesting, especially since I expect her arc to go there eventually, where she maybe realizes that she's been going about this the wrong way. That maybe realizing, oh shit, by just doing this to Teddy's brain, I've
ruined him.
Yeah, like I've not given him a choice. I've taken that away, and now he's just this brutal murderer. And yeah, so they unhook the train and they leave the guy for dead in the train, and they let it go flying into the base. Boom.
Looks pretty good.
Yeah, looked pretty good. But no, that, again, really simple, real thing. Which is why I think this plot could have easily just been put in last episode.
I agree.
Maybe the stuff with them looking at the map as well, because I think that would tie in better with actually seeing the train than with the Elsie stuff.
Yeah, the Elsie thing is just a nice way of placing it.
Yeah, I think that would have worked on its own. You're right. But so you've got that, but of course the one plot we've not talked about yet is Maeve. And if you'd asked me last week if we were only keeping one Japanese character with the main team, which one would it be? I don't think I would have guessed Japanese Armistice. I don't think that would have been the one I guessed.
I'd have gone with either of the other two.
Yeah, Akane I thought was the one who was going to go with them. But of course, she gets her daughter's heart, or surrogate daughter's heart, and she kind of holds it close. And Maeve has went full god mode though. She walks out of that building and she's like, these two samurai are about to take her on, and she's just like, meh. It is like, just okay, stab him, slip my own through it. That's it. And then Musashi insists on the main bad guy, like, no, let me duel him, and Maeve lets him do it because she's like, well, I don't want to take away his choice, like, I'll order the people who are going to hurt me, but
it's the complete opposite of Dolores' approach now.
It is, and it's funny because she has way more power than Dolores does.
She does, but she's been manipulative against the threats to her.
Yeah,
and her friends obviously, but she's not forcing them into it. I know. There's been some debate as to whether Hector truly, if Hector does love her and have free will, or if it's just kind of a byproduct of the programming.
I don't think he's got free will. I don't think that, but whether or not she's outright like programmed them to love her, or if that's something that developed naturally, I think is maybe up for debate.
Yeah, no, that's true. But whereas Dolores is straight up going, nah, you're not good enough. Let's hack you into something that's more appropriate. And
is maybe regretting it. And I think the big difference between them, especially, is later on there's a moment where even Sizemore kind of like when she thanks him for getting to like where her daughter might be, he actually kind of like smiles for a moment and kind of like almost questions himself, like, is she real now? Like this is gratitude. She's actually thanking me, and it seems real. Even he, who's probably the most cynical one when it comes to like, can the host be people?
Yeah.
Even he has a little moment where maybe he's just kind of shrugged it off now, and he sort of said, okay, no, that was whatever. But for a moment, he was questioning it. But so we have this duel between Musashi and the bad guy, and it ends with his hand getting cut off, and then seppuku with a decapitation. So he gets proper mutilated.
I thought the CG on the hand looked a little bit rough, just on the stump, which was I thought it was a little weird, given that the show has had some pretty fantastic CG.
Maybe that's just one that's harder to fake. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it just stood out to me. But I thought it was really interesting with the seppuku. He because he stands over him like he's going to decapitate him, and I thought he was going to do it before he gets to commit the seppuku, right?
No,
rob him of that moment, but he lets him have it.
Yeah, I think it's like he lets him do it for the honor, but then ends it quickly so he's not suffering while he bleeds out.
Yeah, but I thought it was interesting that he let him have the moment, or he let him have the honor first.
Yeah. Well, it just kind of shows what sort of character he is. He's kind of the honourable samurai, which is interesting because I don't know if because he's kind of the Japanese Hector. I don't know if I'd say Hector had that same honor. Like,
I don't think he did. No.
yeah, but yeah, so they end up getting to the fields, and they get all redressed, and this is after, of course, they drop off Akane and Musashi at this temple where they want to stay, because this is our home, we will defend it, And again, Maeve's like, free will, and she gets that quoted back to her, that they want to make their own choices, so. She goes with them, and they come out. I love that we've got Japanese armistice with us, because she's got a bow and arrow, and it's just a little bit different. Everyone's sort of together. And when Maeve goes off to find her daughter, Lee actually makes a call, and it's interesting that I think that Lutz is kind of like, what are you doing? You're betraying her. And then he walks off.
Yeah, he's off to go and help at the moment anyway, because obviously, Ghost Nation have showed up, and he's
of
like,
course,
we should go and help out. Whereas
and
obviously more like, nah, this is the perfect opportunity to get out.
Yeah, let's call and get out of here. And Maeve, we had these very gladiator-esque moments of her walking down in the field and like feeling the grass and like remembering holding her daughter's hands. All very tranquil and it's all very good. And she gets down there, and it was funny because the music was so swelling, not quite happiness, but almost happiness. It was kind of like, okay, she's really excited. There's a lot of emotion here. And that was what convinced me that what was about to happen was going to be a really hurtful lesson that she's going to learn. And I wasn't quite sure what it was going to be. Like, I wasn't quite sure if the daughter was going to be scared of her or what. But what happens is she sits down, and the girl's playing with some dolls, and she's like, oh, this is the mum and daughter. And the daughter's scared because she doesn't want her mum to get taken away. And she's like, oh, no, don't you worry. And she gives this little speech. And then the replacement Maeve, who's been her mother now, shows up, similar sort of haircut, and it's like, okay, she was just.
I thought it was so like obvious that this was going to happen.
Yeah.
As soon as but maybe it never crossed her mind.
I think for me, I wasn't sure until she got here, because before she got here, I wasn't sure if the daughter was still in the same story. Like I thought she might be in a completely different scenario.
Oh, I think the reason that I was always assuming she was still here is when she told Sizemore, I'm looking for my daughter. He immediately knows where she is. Like she's still there, right?
No, that's fair. Because I was half expecting to get to her, and like, no, she's in a different plot now. Now she's I don't know, like now she works for the stable in the town or something like that. Whatever. But. Like so this is like a really hurtful moment, and you can see it in Maeve's face where she's kind of comprehending, and like, because I think it represents, now it's not going this way because the mother clearly is dying by the Ghost Nation's hand, but she has this moment, and I was thinking as she's staring and the music's swelling up that like she has to acknowledge that this new version of the mother also has equal entitlement to her daughter that she does.
Right, and she can't force the daughter to come with her because that it goes against the whole point of the free will.
Yeah, because part of me was thinking as she was walking up as well that whatever the lesson was going to be is she was going to choose to not take the daughter. She was going to basically learn that no, I can't because it doesn't work. Like as much as
selfish.
As much as I think of her as my daughter, and as much as I care about her in a real sense, she doesn't just belong to me, and I can't just do that. Like I thought, like that was going to be the choice. Instead, the Ghost Nation show up, all hell breaks loose, and she kind of like just grabs the daughter and runs out of safety. Interestingly, though, Ghost Nation leader corners her and says, "You must come with us."
Yeah, we're on the same path.
Yeah, he doesn't want to hurt her, but then she says in his language, which by the way, she's spouting out lots of languages these days. Thandi Newton's done some practice.
Yeah.
I wonder how many like helpers because obviously I assume that you'll have a different person helping her, like with the dialect for each one. Because I assume she doesn't speak all these languages anyway.
I mean, I assume she just they put it in the script phonetically for her.
Oh, I'm sure. No, but they still have someone making sure she's saying it properly.
Oh, there'll be someone there making sure.
Yeah. Like they'll have someone kind of like talk her through it and like, listen to it a few times and be like, okay, this is how you say this.
Yeah, but this one it's only one line that she's saying. So.
Oh, that's true. But I just wonder how many other worlds do we go to, and
that's a fair question.
How many other languages does she spit out? But he, so on the same path, and she's like, "Oh, your path leads to hell," or whatever she says, something to that effect. Yeah. So again, I'm really curious. It leaves us off in this really interesting place. Okay, because we've been speculating about what the Ghost Nation really are and what their real purpose is.
Yeah, because they've been doing their own thing. They're so separate, but.
Because up until now, they've only been interested in taking the human beings and not killing them. They've just been taking them.
No, but they've been killing the hosts, but they've been keeping the humans safe.
And it's interesting at this point that
Do they consider her a human at this point almost? Like they recognize that she has the free will and isn't just to be put down?
either they mistake her for a human because she's human enough at this point with her free will, or they were always programmed to recognize which hosts were going to be. You know, let's say Ford was predicting a lot of this. He was programmed, no, put down the ones that are just drones that don't have any free will, but save the ones that are actually, you know, that have awakened, if you will.
Yeah.
So
Because that was always the path that he wanted them to go on eventually.
yeah, so no, a lot of interesting possibilities there. It's funny because we started with the cradle stuff and the Ford reveal, which obviously is the big stuff, and obviously I'm expecting a lot of Ford next episode. In the cradle, at least, yeah.
That, or they do a complete dick move and we get none of it next episode, and it's all the one after. You know what they did with the Shogun tease?
Yeah, they made us wait an extra episode. Yeah, it's possible. But hey, I'm just saying, episode 7 was the big one last year, so I'm just next week might be important.
Might.
Not that there's any reason why 7 has to be the one again, but
no.
But no, I'm excited by the possibilities. I think this cradle stuff is very interesting, especially why does Dolores want Bernard to become Arnold? Why does she want that? That fascinates me as a character, the motivation.
It is. It's because she's appearing as quaint Dolores in the blue dress.
Yeah, she's pretending for the benefit of him reliving the memory.
Yeah, she's just playing the part.
Which is really fascinating, the idea of a host pretending to be a regular host, but actually knowing what they're doing.
Yeah.
Until they can strike or whatever. You know, like
too many layers.
Lots of layers. So fascinating. So yeah, a bit of a maybe overstuffed episode that stopped it from flowing as well as it has done in the past. But most of the individual parts were really fascinating, and I love, by the way, we didn't even mention that the Man in Black agreed because Grace made, it's like, hey, like I'll start to forgive you if you come with me. Like, I don't want to have you end up like dying in some blaze of glory and essentially leaving me without any parents.
Suicide by robot.
Yeah, she wants him to maybe start to make amends, and he's like, oh, we'll be even. And she's like, no, it's a start. And it's like, no, she wants to build a bridge. She's there to build a bridge with her father. And he agrees, and then she wakes up in the morning and he's pissed off with everyone.
Classic Man in Black.
Mm-hmm.
I also love the moment where he starts getting a drink, and she's like, "I thought you don't drink." He's like, "Oh, not at home, you don't."
Yeah, not in the real world, but here.
Yeah, I thought it was a nice touch.
Well, that's a nice touch. So, no, but I think there's a lot of great stuff in this episode, and I was excited by a lot of different things, especially everything with Bernard and Dolores.
Oh, definitely.
So, and obviously Ford. So, that has been episode 6 of Westworld season 2. So, by all means, let us know what you think of this one in the comments below. Do give us your theories and your thoughts and feelings. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. You can get a link to that in the description. Otherwise, get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz. Like, subscribe, all the usual things. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV. Have you got any vanilla?